Hi, welcome back. In the previous video, what we did was we mapped out our database, or sketched it out here in Excel, and then we came into phpMyAdmin and we created the database and set up our tables. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a kind of mock-up sample survey with some simple questions. So let's go to the survey table and we'll go to Insert, and we'll call this survey the Digital Craft, and we'll say Go. We now have our first survey. Survey ID is 1. So let's come in here and create some questions. And we'll say Insert. And the first thing we're going to do is toss in the survey ID, which is 1, and then our question. There we go. We have our first question, and we'll create another question. Survey ID 1, and we'll say Go. And we'll just keep it at 2 questions for now. And let's go ahead and we're going to go to Users, and we're going to insert a user. The username is Alan Q. Say Go. So now we have Alan Q, and my user ID is 1. And we're going to go to Survey Answers, and we're going to have to use a little bit of memory here for now. So we'll go to Insert, and the question ID is going to be 1, user ID is 1, and the question was, do you like the Digital Craft? There you go. There you go. And the next one is going to be question 2, user 1, and I forgot our question. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this table here in another window, or another tab that is, and check out what our question was. What kind of project should we do next? Alright. There we go. We have both of our answers. And we'll say Go. Alright, so now we're set up to start working on the front end of the application. We may come in and add some more questions and answers here as we start building the front end, just so we can kind of see it with a little more fluff. And get an idea what a full-blown survey is going to look like. So for the next part of this project, we're going to be doing some work in Dreamweaver here. And I'm also going to talk about some little more folder structure topics, some organization. I'm going to give you kind of a rough idea of how I set up a project. I'm not going to get into all the details. I have to keep some of that stuff for myself, but I'll give you a rough idea on how you can organize your project. So let's create some folders really quick. So I'll right click, and again, if you're using something other than Dreamweaver, just follow along in your FTP program. So new folder, and we're going to call this folder config, and a new folder, and we'll call this functions, and a new folder, images. Alright, we're going to create a new file, and it's going to be a PHP file, and we're going to title that file really quick here, and we're going to go ahead and save this file. We're going to call this index. And we're going to make another file. It'll be CSS. And we're going to save it, and we'll just call this default. And we'll go ahead and close these for a second. And we're going to come back over here, and we're going to create one more folder. We'll call this admin. Now, once you start doing this long enough and you get your own folder structure kind of locked down, there's some tips and tricks you can use to speed up the process. And I mean, you feel free to use my structure too. It's a pretty common structure, but I'm most likely going to have a config functions images index in CSS file in my admin as well. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all these here and hold down Control and drag them into the admin folder. So there, I just cloned that. Now, if we were further into this, and I already know what files I want in here. There's a bunch of files that would probably also be able to be moved straight into the admin, so we might do that later. But really quick and good form, let's open up our admin index and just change the title here. And save and close. There you go, and we'll minimize this. So let's have a look at what we just did. I kind of flew through it because I just wanted to get it in here so we can get a visual here. I may add more folders later, or I may add more folders to more in-depth projects, but for this one this will do, at least for the moment. The admin folder is going to be where you're going to go as the site owner or application owner and add your surveys and kind of moderate the application. The rest of this here, this is our root, and this is going to be the public side. And images folder, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. The functions folder, this will be for any functions that we create for this file or this application. The config directory, this is where you can put things like your connection info and things like that. However, I'm only doing that in these tutorials, and it is good practice to maybe put your connection little script farther back into the server outside of the public arena here. But for this example here, to make things easy, I'm going to put it here. So let's go ahead and open up the index here. And one thing we haven't done is we really don't know how we want this thing to look. So let's kind of brainstorm here. Even if you're just learning the basics of PHP and MySQL, that's fine, but you should definitely, before doing this, you should definitely know HTML and have a little bit of a handle, at least on CSS, because I don't want to sit here and waste time teaching HTML. So we're going to kind of fly through the HTML, and I'll go a little slower on the CSS, but I'm assuming you already know HTML here. So let's set up just a basic little template for our survey. Let's give it a header. So we'll make a div, and we'll give it a class for the CSS. We'll call it header. And for now in the header, we're just going to add an H2 tag, which if you're using Dreamweaver, there's a quick shortcut, and that is the control key and the number 2. Likewise, number 1 would be an H1, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 6. So we're going to use an H2. And we're going to make a navigation. We're going to have this one run down the side, and this will give a list of the different surveys to choose from. So let's create a div for the nav. We'll call the side nav class here. And we're going to use an unordered list. So let's go ahead and set that up really quick. And we're just going to give it a couple sample links, which will generate automatically later. I do apologize, my keyboard seems to be running out of batteries and it's doing some crazy stuff. Alright, so we now have our side nav here. Alright, and now what I want is I want this to run along the side, and I want the rest of the right side to be where the survey loads. So let's create another div, And for speed, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one and paste it. And I'm going to change the class to content. And we'll just say survey name. And we'll do question name. And let's go ahead and make this an H3 tag. And what we're going to do in here is create a form. This won't necessarily be the actual form, but we're going to take bits and pieces of this once we start writing our PHP and utilize it, so we might as well just write it out anyway. So form, the action is going to be, at this point, index. The method is going to be post. We're just going to go ahead and put an input field here. The type is going to be text. Name is going to be answer. Size, say 30, and that'll be good for the moment. Let's go ahead and make a button. The type is going to be submit. Value is going to be submit. Name submit. And we're going to create one more input. The type is going to be hidden. And the name is going to be question ID, and the value question ID. And we're going to make one more hidden field, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one, paste it below, and we'll call this submitted. Value is 1 for yes. Let's go ahead and tab these guys out. What we got here. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted this to be a sidebar, so we're going to need to do some CSS floating. So what I want to do is create a wrap around these two. We're going to simply copy this here. Call this wrap content, and we'll copy this closing div here. Let's go ahead and tab these out. And really quick, let's toss in some comments here. I'm going to go ahead and toss all these comments in here. You don't need to watch me type them. And we're going to make a couple more divs. We're going to make a footer and then a wrap that goes around the entire site here, or page. So let's just go ahead and copy the header. Hold down Control and drag to make a copy. Call this footer. And we'll strip out this here. Put in a paragraph tags. And we're just going to make a link that will take you to the admin panel. Our comment name. Alright, now let's make our wraps. Let's just copy this wrap div here, hold down Control and drag. Call this wrap overall. And let's grab one of these closing divs and copy and paste it. So hold down Control and drag. Call this wrap overall. And do a little more tabbing out here. Give ourselves some space.